You could argue that Texas football has been one of the most disappointing teams in 2021. Well, I mean, pretty much everyone knew they were overrated and that they had no business being ranked at any point in the preseason, but as we all know, they had hype nonetheless, and the first year under Steve Sarkeesian was supposed to be great. After getting out to a slow start, it seemed that Texas football was back on the map as they were beating number 6 Oklahoma soundly at halftime. Well, from that moment on, it has been a downward spiral for the Texas Longhorns. They lost in heartbreaking fashion to the Sooners and have now dropped 3 straight games, including a blowout victory against the Big 12's other most disappointing team, Iowa State. In today's video, I want to talk about the expectations of Texas football going into 2021, the season so far, and what ultimately has gone wrong for the Longhorns. But before we get into today's video, nearly 80% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel, and we can do better than that, so be sure to hit that subscribe button, smash that like button for the algorithm, and turn on post notifications so you never miss my upload. Now let's get started and talk about Texas football. So in order to understand what's gone wrong for Texas in 2021, let's first go back all the way to 2009 when many believe the downfall starts. Led by Colt McCoy, the Longhorns went 13-1 with an 8-0 record in the Big 12. They ended up going to the BCS national title game where they would eventually lose to Alabama. And from there, things would start to fall off. He went 5-7 in 2010, 8-5 in 2011, 9-4 in 2012, and eventually 8-5 in 2013. They had lost in the Alamo Bowl, and now they'd be headed in a new direction of Texas football. Brown would take a leave of absence and eventually resurface at North Carolina, but the Texas Longhorns would decide to hire the hottest up-and-coming coach in the sport by name of Charlie Strong. He had done spectacular at Louisville, and many thought he'd jump right in and save the Texas program. Year 1 wasn't the greatest, but they went 5-4 in the Big 12 and ended up going to a bowl game. They lost to the Arkansas Razorbacks in that game, and there was at least some promise for the future. 2015 was not that great though. They got killed by Notre Dame that year, and besides wins over number 10 Oklahoma and number 12 Baylor, they only won 3 more games on the year, and the Longhorns ended up going 5-7 in a disappointing year 2 under Strong. 2016 is when they were supposed to break out, and led by quarterback Tyrone Swoops, the Longhorns beat number 10 Notre Dame in thrilling comeback fashion, and it was declared that Texas was back. They went from unranked to number 11th in the country, and then they dropped 3 of their next 4 games. They would get their 5th win on November 5th against Texas Tech, but then they would literally lose their last 3 games, including a road loss to Kansas, and they would go 5-7 and miss a bowl game. This was the end of Charlie Strong, and he was fired immediately, and it was time to look into a new direction. Then came Tom Herman. He had blown up at Ohio State and had built the Houston Cougars into arguably the top Group of 5 program in the country, and he was seen as the next great Texas head football coach. In 2017, they were led by quarterback Shane Buechele and started out the year ranked number 23, because of course they did. They got humbled immediately as they lost to Maryland, and they didn't really beat anyone good, but they did get the 6 wins where they'd eventually beat Missouri in the Texas Bowl. Year 1 under Herman was pretty solid, and they had a lot to build upon for 2018. Once again, they were ranked number 23 and lost to Maryland, but this time Sam Ehlinger was the quarterback instead of Buechele. They won 6 of their next 7 games, including wins over number 22 USC, number 17 TCU, and number 7 Oklahoma in the Red River Showdown. Texas climbed as high as number 9 in the country, but they blew it to both Oklahoma State and West Virginia the following 2 weeks. They took care of number 18 Iowa State, Texas Tech, and Kansas to go to the Big 12 championship, where they end up losing to number 5 Oklahoma. They had 4 losses at this point, but they were selected to play in the Sugar Bowl, where they beat Georgia, where Sam Ehlinger famously declared that him and the Longhorns were back. It was a great year 2 under Herman, and expectations were ultra high going into 2019. Because of that, they started out the year ranked number 10, but in week 2 they blew a game to Joe Burrow's LSU Tigers, and they could never recover. They also lost to Oklahoma, TCU, Iowa State, and Baylor, and they finished with a 7-5 regular season record. They ended up beating number 11 Utah in the Alamo Bowl, and it was a disappointing year, and some were calling for Herman's head. 2020 was the epitome of it all, as they barely beat Texas Tech in week 2, lost to TCU in week 3, dropped a 4 overtime game to Oklahoma, and also lost to Iowa State late in the year, which solidified them not getting to the Big 12 championship. This was enough to get Tom Herman canned, and it was time for Texas to look in a new direction. Who did they look to? Well, they went to the Nick Saban Rehabilitation Coaching Clinic and got Steve Sarkeesian. There's obviously a lot of hype, just like every new Texas coach has, but maybe there was actually good reason to this. They had one of the top returning running backs in the country in Bijan Robinson. As a freshman, he went off and was expected to be the future of the program and someone who could carry this Texas football team. In terms of the wide receiver spot, there were going to need to be some guys to break out. Joshua Moore was expected to be the guy, but instead, a late arrival freshman by the name of Xavier Worthy would show up big this year. The quarterback spot was a little bit troubling. They had former Texas high school football legend Hudson Card and Casey Thompson, who had broke out in their bowl game against Colorado. It was a battle back and forth, but eventually Card would get the start. This would not end up lasting though, as Card was eventually benched in favor of Casey Thompson. Texas began the year ranked number 21, and they played against number 23 Louisiana, who outside of Cincinnati was seen as the best group of 5 school in the country. Thankfully for Texas, this game was not that difficult, as they ended up winning 38-18 against the Cajuns. In week 2, they went on the road to Arkansas, and this is when Texas got exposed. The number 15 Longhorns went home with their tail between their legs as they lost 40-21, and Arkansas ran all over them. This did not get Texas down though, as they went home and beat Rice, Texas Tech, and TCU to climb back to number 21 in the country. Texas football was playing great at this point, and in the first half against Oklahoma, all was well. The team was going off, Oklahoma was falling apart, and it looked like Texas was in great shape for the rest of the year, as they were likely going to win the game. As we all know though, Caleb Williams was put in, he led all the fireworks, and eventually Kennedy Brooks won the game. This was a terrible loss for Texas, and this is what honestly looks like has killed the year. They've since lost to number 12 Oklahoma State, they lost on the road to number 16 Baylor, and then this past weekend, they looked outmatched and just tired on the road against Iowa State. They lost to the Cyclones 30-7, and now Texas has lost their last 4 games, and they're going to have to win 2 of their last 3 if they want to make a bowl game. They're playing 3 of the worst teams in Kansas, West Virginia, and Kansas State, but I don't think the Mountaineers or the Wildcats are just going to lay over and let them win. Heck, even Kansas won't. So now that you are up to speed with what's gone on in 2021, what exactly has gone wrong for the Longhorns, and what can they do to fix it? I'm not an expert on the X's and O's, but I'm going to give my 5 main reasons why I think Texas football is struggling. 1, it starts with the quarterback play. Casey Thompson and Hudson Card had gone back and forth all year long, and while both guys did show some flash at times, Thompson seemed to get the benefit of the doubt. He has once again been struggling majorly, and at the end of the day, if you want to be a good team, especially a school like Texas, you need good quarterback play, and they just haven't got it out of Card or Thompson, and I wonder if Sarkeesian will look to the transfer portal or dig deep on his quarterback bench. QB play needs to improve. Secondly, I've read a lot on social media, and it seems the offensive line is not quite there yet. If you don't have a good line, then you can't really control the game, and it also doesn't help the quarterback. Wow, expert analysis, I know, right? But it is very important to have a great offensive line, and Texas is not seemingly there yet. Thirdly, I think they've just had some bad luck. If you play the Oklahoma and Oklahoma State games 10 times in those scenarios, you're probably going to win those games the majority of the time, but they just got caught in a bad place at a bad time and some bad luck. Fourthly, I think the inexperience on the roster is showing. The 2 best offensive players this year have been Bijan Robinson and Xavier Worthy, and those guys are sophomores and freshmen respectively. They haven't been through these moments yet, and they still lack a lot of the experience necessary to win these big games. Finally, I think it's a culture. As I just mentioned, Joshua Moore left to enter the transfer portal, and there have been a lot of rumors about him lately and just the overall vibe in the locker room. Apparently a lot of players were joking and laughing in their loss to Iowa State, and I think Steve Sarkeesian is going to need more time to get the right guys and the right culture in place. What do you guys think though? If you're a Texas football fan, let me know what you think the main problem is, how you guys are going to finish the year, and also be sure to let me know another team or topic I could take a look at in my next video. Be sure to let me know down below, smash that like button if you want to support today's video, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.